this concludes what I have planned for my doctoral recital. Any questions from anybody? Yes.
It sounded like when you did your solo, the music was coming out the speakers.
The speakers here?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. It was coming out of the piano soundboard as far as I know. But yeah, I guess that's that's a compliment, right? It's supposed to sound natural. Yeah, go Scott.
So I can't remember what the name of that software was that started with a V that detects whether something's happy or
Oh,
sad.
vocatory, yeah.
Yeah, so you had a machine try to detect the emotion of your models, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the nature of your piece, it seems to be like it would also make sense to maybe see if humans could detect angry or sad from these what you produce for the piano to play, whether it's happy or sad.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. I recently wrote a paper and got feedback, and that's what they said. So you're right on target. I guess the problem is then it's like it's a lot of gathering of data from people, and I have to include the IRB's got to be a part of it too, which is trouble. No, that's really what I should do, and that would be a great thing, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yes, Bill.
Has doing this work changed your own piano playing?
Definitely, yes. I still can only play things that a human can play, um, but yeah, I think so.
Have you ever counted the maximum number of notes in a vertical?
I know it's something crazy. It's a lot. It's like, something like 20 subdivisions of a beat or something like that. I don't know. It's a lot. At one point I knew that number, but I don't right now.
How many notes stacked in one line?
Oh, you mean, okay, I don't know. Yeah, good question. Seems like almost all of them in the piano range, but not quite. Close to it. Yes.
So a couple of thoughts and a question. First, the moments in the piece that are for a machine. When it starts the patter of it, and it's clear that there's speech that's driving this. Um, you can't, or at least my perception was that I couldn't tell what was being said, but I could tell that it was vocal.
Right.
Very much tell that there was some kind of language going on, and so my thought and question for you. I have a second question to follow up on that, but the question is, would you consider this kind of melding of speech driving piano performance as a way of creating a new kind of nonverbal language? And how would you, and or would you see it as a possibility for future compositions and being expressive?
That's really interesting. I mean, for sure, it does sound to me also like it's speech, but although it's gibberish because it's generating speech-like stuff, but it's not. It doesn't know what words are. It just knows what MIDI data is. It's just numbers 0 to 127. So it has no idea that it's doing that. But yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought about doing that, but I like that idea.
But being really intentional about the speech that you put in as
Right.
a way of predicting-ish what comes out.
Right. Yeah, that could be a whole nother world. Yeah, I like that.
The other thing that I was curious about was on the last movement, it's for human and
Right.
machine performer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think of, how do you envision that actually being performed? On two separate instruments or on the same instrument at the same time?
Great question. The same instrument. So it's all one generation. So basically, how I made that one, They're not separated in this particular score, but there would be two different scores, one for the machine and one for the human. And the way that I did it was I injected a primer that lasted throughout the entire generation. And so the human is just playing this primer, that chromatic theme that happens over and over again. And the machine is doing stuff all around it. But because I injected this thing into it, the machine never plays the same notes as the human at the same time. So the idea was to do it, initially I thought about two pianos, but I think it's way more interesting if it's one piano. Because then when the pianist is not playing and the machine is playing, the piano player is just sitting there watching it like, wow, this is crazy. And then when it's playing, it's like, oh, it's all around me. Like, it feels, I don't know, it feels like it might feel kind of dangerous to do that, but I'm sure it's totally safe.
That was gonna be my follow-up was, do you worry about pianists injuring themselves while the machine is consuming the piano?
Well, so far this is the last movement is the only piece I've written where they play at the same time. But I guess it could happen, yeah. I mean, it's pretty, I wish that we had a disc clavier like that we could put on the stage here for you to all to see, because it's crazy to hear and see in person. Yeah. This contraption can get dangerous too if you're not careful. But I have it under control. This piano is safe. What about what? Pedal. Oh, good question. I wrote in all the pedal stuff myself after the fact. So there's only a few things that I actually wrote. Everything else was just generated. Like each one of these movements was generated in one go. Like I didn't. The only things I've changed is for the human stuff. I've tried to make sure it's playable by for a person, you know. Because even like the models that I trained for human performance of speech get out of hand sometimes. That's one thing. But I also added dynamics. There was no dynamics before. Dynamics and pedaling. I think that's it. And just trying to make sure it's playable. Yeah. So you might have noticed also, like when you were looking at the machine performed etudes, it's really hard to read. Like, it doesn't make sense. But it sounds good. I had to take, all of them look like that at first, and I had to go and edit them to make them look like a human could play them, to make sense of them, which I'm close.
So you did a little quantizing?
No. Well, yeah, I think there's maybe a couple of points where I was like, it doesn't have to be on that last, 170 whatever note. I can just make that a downbeat, Nobody's going to know. For an actual human, it's much better, I think. But, I mean, I really tried to stick as much as I could to what was generated, but within reason, because I do want it to get played,
I'd be curious to hear that pushed through a Play-Doh machine of chord progressions. Same material, just...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be interesting, yeah. Anybody else? All right, well, thanks for coming out, everybody. And I just want to thank Dr. Jesse Allison, Dr. Beck, Dr. Edgar Berdahl, and Dr. Mara Gibson for being so helpful. I've learned so much since I've been here at LSU. It's crazy how much I learned entire categories I didn't know existed since I've been here and learned about them. It's been great. I mean, I'm not done yet, but thank you so much, and good night.